So I'm going to start at the top. This is Plessy versus Ferguson. It's a very well-known U.S. Supreme Court case. And this is the definition of slavery under the 13th Amendment. Now, a lot of people think that only Black people can be slaves. No, we're all slaves. The government has enslaved us. Here's the definition of slavery. Slavery implies involuntary servitude, a state of bondage, the ownership of mankind as chattel, or at least the control of the labor and services of one man for the benefit of another, and the absence of a legal right to the disposal of his own person, property, and services. Now, I want y'all to let that sink in. Do we have any control or autonomy over our own labor, or are we owned by corporations? Do we need occupational licenses to even earn a livelihood? Do we have to get a whole bunch of student loan debt in order to have some type of vocation that is completely oversaw by the government? But I want to put emphasis on the absence of the legal right to the disposal of his own person. You don't have the right to die. That means that you don't own your life. If you own any type of property, if you owned a car, if you owned a watch, if you owned a house, you could dispose of it. You could sell it. You could get rid of it. You do not have the right to die. Therefore, you don't own your life. That's the legal definition. I'm not making this up. If you don't have the right to dispose of your own person, then that makes you a slave. This is the U.S. Supreme Court. This is their definition. I'm not making this up. Now, somebody was in my comment section saying that the government is not preventing us or depriving us of the right to die. I don't know what to say to that. The only thing I can say is that a lot of you are naive about the law, about the legal system, about how much control the government actually has over your lives. Like, I think a lot of you live in La La Land. Like, you go to the gym, you watch television, you live in your own little bubble, and you think that this is reality. You don't even think about what is going on behind the curtains, the way that the government has complete control over your life, over your day-to-day functions. I mean, it's really strange to me because this is all that I think about. And this is probably why I'm so depressed. I wish I didn't know what I know. I wish I didn't realize that the government completely controls me. And there's nothing, it bothers me so much. It makes me extremely depressed. There's nothing I can do about it. I've organized protests. I've filed lawsuits. I've run for office. I've done a whole bunch of things. I've done everything within my power. People always say, if you don't like your circumstances, you should change it. I can't do it by myself, right? Everyone else wants to be a slave. I'm not going to say everyone, but most people, well, first of all, they don't even realize that they're slaves. But even once you tell them that they're slaves, they're still not going to do anything about it. And so there's strength in numbers. As an individual, you really have no power. So now I'm going to go and address Texas law. Now, when I talk to y'all about government oppression, I'm usually talking about states. People always want to talk about the federal government having too much power. No, it's not the federal government. It's the state and local governments that are making our lives a living hell. Now, I'm going to use Texas law because I live in Texas, but the same applies in every state in America. Every state. I don't think there's any exception. First of all, let's just get this out the way that no state allows anybody the right to die, right? So I'm going to show y'all what the law says. This is the Texas Penal Code. It's the title is Title 5, Offenses Against a Person, Assaultive Offenses. Here it is. Aiding, excuse me, I just went a little too far down. Aiding suicide. This is section 22.08. A person commits an offense if with intent to promote or assist the commission of suicide by another, he aids or attempts to aid the other to commit or attempt to commit suicide. An offense under this section is a Class C misdemeanor unless the actor's conduct causes suicide or attempted suicide that results in serious bodily injury, in which event the offense is a state jail felony. Now, I don't I'm not sure if you realize the implications of this. It's not even criminalizing just physician assisted suicide. It goes far beyond that. Even if you have a discussion with someone, it says encouraging. What does it say? Promote or assist in the commission of suicide. Any type of assistance, any discussion about methods. We're not even allowed to talk about it on YouTube. I mean, hopefully, I'm not getting in trouble. I'm not even talking, I'm not promoting suicide. That's not what I'm doing right now. I'm just talking about the law and the fact that we don't actually own our lives. So hopefully, YouTube won't take this live stream down. I'm not promoting suicide. What I'm saying, I'm using the fact that we don't have the right to die to show that we don't own our lives. So this is so oppressive. You can't even talk about it. You can't talk about it on YouTube. You can't even get information about it because if you Google it, the only information you're going to get are referrals to suicide hotlines. So, I mean, you're brainwashed to think that if you commit the act, you're going to go to hell. There's no resources whatsoever. There's nobody to talk to. I mean, you can talk to somebody, but they're only going to give you one perspective, right? They're going to tell you, "Oh, your love, life is wonderful. Things are going to get better." They don't know that. They don't know that things are going to get better. And even in the context of someone who is terminally ill, someone who is in serious pain, what they're going to try to tell you is that you should focus on your loved ones. Don't think about yourself, even though you are in excruciating pain. Oh, your loved ones are going to suffer but you're going to die anyway. That's the point. That this makes no sense. This whole conversation is so derailed. It's like everyone. I mean, I talked about how people don't want to think about death. I mean, it's like they block it out. They go through life thinking that they're immortal or whatever. Carl Jung talked about that, or he wrote about it. Um, they're so delusional. Why are you working so hard to prevent people from dying when they're going to die anyway? It's like, really, that death is the only purpose of life, right? You're going to die from the moment that you are born or the moment that you are conceived. I don't understand what the whole pro-life thing means. It's so dumb. You're just breeding someone into hell so they can die, and then in between you're going to suffer. You There's an infinite potential for suffering, and it serves no purpose. You can't articulate what the purpose is. Everyone says life has a purpose. God has a purpose. God has a reason and a season. But when you ask them specifically what that purpose is, oh, it's going to be revealed to you. There are people who are 90 years old who still have not been revealed, or the purpose has not been revealed for their lives. It's complete bullshit. I don't know why people make up these cliches to try to make themselves feel better for imposing life and suffering onto human beings without their consent. So let's start out with the baseline that none of us consented to being born, right? And now you don't even have the right to die. So it's not that the government is forcing you to, or depriving you of the right to die, or they're forcing you to continue to exist. That's what they're doing. By they're depriving you of the right to a humane death. That if you decide based on your own conscience, they're always going to assume that anybody who doesn't want to live is crazy. Um, without any due process, without any determination about your mental health, about your mental faculties. You are ipso facto insane if you don't want to live. It's the dumbest thing ever, right? They can't even take into account what your individual circumstances are. It's just that, oh, everyone should want to live. Like, that's just so self-evident. It's so inherent that life is wonderful. Life is a gift. No, it's not. Not for many, not for me. Not for me. Every day is fucking miserable. I try not to think about it. I try to be as positive as possible, but it's like the most the worst part about life is government oppression, right? I could probably deal with it if the government wasn't constantly harassing me and if the government didn't have so much control over my life. But that is the main thing. I'm self-sufficient. I'm able to take care of myself. I don't need any help from the government. I don't need to be harassed by the police officers. If I harm somebody, I take responsibility for it. Like John Jacques Rousseau stated about the noble savage. I'm a noble savage. I don't need to live in a state of society. I don't need the government to tell me the difference between right and wrong. I know right and wrong for myself. I try not to harm people. And if I do harm people, I take responsibility for it. I don't need the government babysitting me. Now, let me see if I have any comments. Oh, gosh. Okay, we have a few people here. I don't even know if I can. Okay, I do have some comments. Let's go back. The evil government is not allowing the slave the right to die is real evidence that we're in a prison realm. They dehumanize those who aren't hysterically happy about life. Yeah, and I'm going. I mean, that's the reason why I'm filing this lawsuit. Well, it's not a lawsuit. It's a traffic citation, but I'm going to make it into a federal case about the right to die, because if I do it as a civil lawsuit, then they could have me declared a vexatious litigant. Um, I'm just going to use this criminal lawsuit. They're the ones who are initiating this. They're prosecuting me. So they've already waived whatever immunity, because if I sue them, they're going to claim immunity. But no, you initiated this criminal suit, and so now I have standing to argue for the right to die. So for those of you, somebody told me that this was fake news, that I'm not actually going to. Y'all don't know me. Y'all don't know me. I don't just sit on YouTube running my mouth. I am about that life. I mean, this is part of the reason that I haven't been making content for a while, that I have been actively fighting the system. I'm actually making things. I mean, I don't know that anything is going to come out of it, but I'm going to make some kind of attempt. Pro-life, so those who are born are neglected due to being unwanted, but at least they're alive. Not just being neglected, but they're also being abused. They're being abused by their parents because, first of all, you're. I didn't plan on talking about all this. I really wanted to talk about the law, but when the parent breeds the child into hell, the child is already a slave. Um, Based on that definition, let me go back to that definition. Okay. Slavery implies involuntary servitude, a state of bondage, the ownership of a mankind as chattel, or at least the control of the labor and services of one man for the benefit of another, and the absence of the legal right to disposal of his own person, property, and services. So you were already a slave from birth. Your parents enslaved you. They were trying to create a little mini me, and now they have complete control over you. You are an abject slave. Um, you don't have any choice about what you eat, about what kind of clothes you wear, about going to school, what type of education you have, what type of religion you have. None of that stuff. You were a slave from birth. they actually think that there's something noble about being I'm a mother. That's what my ex-mama, I'm your mother. You're the y'all, I don't have any respect for her, so whatever words I refer to her, it is what it is. I feel entitled to call her whatever I want because of everything she's done to me. This woman has ruined my life. So the cunt who bred me into hell thinks that just because she gave me life, that I'm her slave, that she has the right to control me. Every time I don't do what she says, she always says, I'm your mother. And I didn't even realize how she was using that to manipulate me. I would actually feel bad. I would feel like, oh, I'm disrespecting my mother. I'm so ungrateful. I should just do what she... And I let this woman ruin my life. Ugh. And I feel so dumb because I didn't even realize, it took me so long to realize what she was doing. I talked to I think my brother is annoyed because a lot of this stuff is old. Excuse me. It's old, but it took me a long time to realize it. I've been watching all these YouTube videos about parental narcissism, and I'm just like, man, she manipulated me in that situation, in this situation. And I feel that my parents are basically an extension of the government. They enslaved me. I see their authority over me just as illegitimate as the government's authority. It's the same thing. Um, it's like they basically just threw you to the lions, but you were already enslaved before the government stepped in. It's I mean, I don't, what people think that they're going to protect their children. It's like you're a slave yourself. How are you going to protect your children? You think, I don't understand how people don't think about this. It's just a way of existing without thinking, that you don't look at the totality of it. You just live in your own little bubble and you think, I'm going to have this wonderful life with this child. I'm going to protect my child. You don't even think about the fact that your boss, some corporation controls you, and then the government. To me, there's a merger between corporations and the government. It's the same thing. It's the same corporate slash government conspiracy to enslave all of us. Okay, I just went on this long ass tangent, and that's fine. It's relevant, but I really wanted to get through the law. So, um, that is the law, that if you don't have the right to dispose your own person, property, and services, then that makes you a slave under the 13th Amendment. This is Plessy versus Ferguson. Now, part of this case has been overturned, but that part of it, the definition of what slavery is or what it entails, that is still good law. That is still cited by cases today. Okay, let's see any comments. Most parents cheat their children if they're citizens in the imaginary micro government. Yet, exactly. I think that a household, parental household, is basically a de facto government. Um, do what I say, not as I do. That's how they indoctrinate. That's your introduction to life. That's your socialization. That might makes right. If you don't do what I say, I'm going to beat the shit out you. I'm going to punish you. You have no rights. Just do what I say. Just obey me. And it's like a whole hierarchy. Jean-Jacques Rousseau explained all of this stuff. The reason why people are okay, are comfortable with enslavement, is because they're not at the bottom. As long as they're not at the very bottom, as long as they can enslave someone else, they're okay with it. And so if they need to have children to make, so that they can feel okay with their own enslavement, they can oppress their own children. And then the whole cycle keeps repeating itself. And then they're going to shame those of us who don't have children and say, "Oh, well, there's something wrong with you." Like, that is so. That's what that guy. What is that guy's name? The one, the nature boy, the one who's always calling people slaves. What is his name? I can't. For some reason, I can't think of it. Y'all know who I'm talking about. The nature boy, the one who's going around eating raw meat and stuff. Um, Somebody tell me in the comment section what his. They take your birthday money, put it towards something else you may never see. Well, my ex mom never really did that. She didn't take my birthday money. Um, one of my older cousins did borrow my birthday money, never paid it back. And anyway, I don't need to get into that, but yeah, I did at least get to keep my birthday money. I never had any money except during my birthday, and she borrowed money from me one time for my birthday, and then she was mad that she had to pay it back. Like, this is the only time of the year that I ever get any money. I'm broke. Like, when I was little, my allowance was 50 cents a day. That was like enough to get like a little drink and a bag of chips. And yeah, I had no money. So how dare you try to take a little bit? When I got money, I clinged on to it for dear life. I didn't waste money, and I'm still that way now. One of my aunts used to call me a miser because I I wouldn't spend money. I knew I wasn't going to get it. Anyway, I want to finish up with the law, and then I'm going to post a link so that if any of y'all want to come up here, I want to show y'all that not only is physician suicide a crime, but it's actually a crime for you too. They're not calling it a crime, but they're criminalized. It has punitive effects. This is what they do. If someone alleges that you attempted suicide or that you have an intent to commit suicide, this is what the law says. Okay, let me go back at the top because I want y'all to see what this is. This is the Health and Safety Code, Title 7, Mental Health and Intellectual Disability. Intellectual disability. So being suicidal is a disability. Gosh, this is so dumb. Apprehension by police officer without warrant. Now, they're calling it an apprehension, but this is an actual arrest, right? These people, this is some legal minutia. When you read it, you really got to read in between the lines of what's actually going on because they're so deceptive, they're so dishonest, so corrupt. This is the system that you're bred into. A peace officer without a warrant may take a person into custody regardless of the age of the person if the officer has reason to believe and does believe that the person is a person with mental illness, and because of that mental illness, there is a substantial risk of serious harm to the person or to others unless the person is immediately restrained. Now, I understand restraining the person if they're going to harm others, but it says if there is a substantial risk of serious harm to the person. Okay. Again, this goes into the whole issue of self-ownership. If it's my right, if I owned a car, can I destroy my car? Can I key up my own car if I want? It's my car. I own it. I can do whatever I want. But you don't have the right to harm your own person. And they're calling it your person, but it's not your person. The government owns you. So basically, when you harm yourself, you're destroying government property. That's the same reason why they're criminalizing abortion. How dare you destroy my property? How dare you not breed more slaves into existence for me? It's the same thing. When people talk about my body, my choice, they always start with a woman's reproductive. It's not just about women. All of us are slaves, and we don't own our bodies. So it's not my body, my choice. Why are you assuming that you own your body? Why are you assuming that you own your life? You don't. And believes that there is not sufficient time to obtain a warrant before taking a person into custody. Now, under the Fourth Amendment, you're supposed to have a warrant before making an arrest. But there's an exception for exigent circumstances when you're in hot pursuit of a crime, or if you have witnessed a felony within your presence, then you can make a warrantless arrest. But we're not talking about a crime here, unless you think that it is a crime to harm your own self. And if you think it's a crime to destroy your own person or your own property, it's not a crime. If it is a crime, then it should be in a penal code. It's in the health and safety code, which is bullshit. You're criminal. This is their backdoor way of criminalizing self deletion, but they're calling it something else. A substantial risk of serious harm to the person or other persons under subsection whatever, the person's behavior or evidence of severe emotional distress and deterioration in the person's mental condition to the extent that the person cannot remain at liberty. So they're going to take your liberty. They're going to force you. Okay, let me tell. I'm going to read a little bit further because I want y'all to see what the end result is. They're going to take away your liberty just because you're not happy with your own life. The peace officer may form the belief that the person meets the criteria for apprehension from a representation of a credible person. Gosh, gosh. I'm trying to. There's so many side issues with this. A credible person. They're supposed to have. Um, they're supposed to make a. In order to have probable cause for a crime, they're supposed to make a probable cause determination, and that means determining whether the person is credible. But when they file these affidavits or make these statements, they just assume or presume that the person is credible based on inadmissible evidence, based on hearsay. And you can establish probable cause based on hearsay, but it has to be corroborated by some other underlying circumstances. But no, they go based solely on the hearsay and they never even make a probable cause determination. And then they just arrest you. And this is what I'm trying to fight. This is what I'm trying to, this is what the whole basis of me fighting this traffic ticket. And misdemeanor cases, um, they're supposed to make a probable cause determination, but if they don't, it's considered harmless error. Um, they only have to make a probable cause determination in felony cases. So they can proceed to prosecute you without probable cause, without determining whether the person who made the complaint is a credible person. And you're forced to defend this bullshit. You're forced to hire a lawyer. You're forced to hire a lawyer, which they cost $500 an hour, which is unreasonable. You're forced to spend hours researching, all because the court summoned you or the term is held into court. They held you into court without making a probable cause determination. So even if you're found, even if you're acquitted, you just took all this time off work. You just spent all this money, and they didn't even have to make a probable cause determination. This is tyranny. This is absolute. I don't know why people think that I'm just whining. That I'm just. Somebody told me that this is fake news. It's not fake news. This is tyranny. It's just that because of my legal background, I recognize it. I see all the things that are wrong. I mean, it's all I think about. It's so depressing. I wish I could do something about it, but I feel so powerless. Okay, so the peace officer may form the belief that the person meets the criteria for apprehension from a representation of a credible person or on the basis of the conduct of the apprehended person or the circumstances under the apprehended person is found. I don't think that's grammatically correct. I don't know what that means. I mean, I know what it means, but it doesn't say, it's not worded correctly. A peace officer who takes a person into custody under subsection A shall immediately transport the apprehended person to the nearest appropriate inpatient mental health facility or mental health facility deemed suitable by the local mental health authority. Authority. You mean illegitimate authority? If an appropriate inpatient mental health facilities not available, or transfer the apprehended person to emergency medical services personnel of an emergency medical health services provider in accordance with a memorandum of understanding, blah, blah, blah. It says a jail or similar detention may not be deemed suitable except in extreme emergency. What do you mean extreme emergency? It's my life. Why am I going to be jailed for? First of all, the mental health facility is a jail. It's a prison in and of itself, but they're talking about an actual jail. A person detained in a jail or a non-medical facility shall be kept separate from any person who is charged with or convicted of a crime. Okay, whoop-de-doo. You're going to, I mean, you're still imprisoning me without my consent. You still arrested me and threw me in a cage. So what that I'm isolated? Oh, is that supposed to be a favor? Thank you, whoop-de-doo. A peace officer who takes a person into custody under subsection A shall immediately inform the person orally in simple, non-technical terms of the reasons for the detention. You mean the bullshit reason that I didn't harm anybody else? I was only going to harm myself? Or I think that you're harming. Okay, I'm not going to say that because I may get in trouble on YouTube. Um, it is what I'm not going to. I can't say what I want to say. And that a staff member of the facility will inform the person of the person's rights within 24 hours after the time the person is admitted to a facility as provided. So they basically just they just kidnap you, threw you into some mental health facility. You can't get out. Now you have to hire an attorney, some pig, some scumbag who's going to charge you $500 an hour. Otherwise, you lose your liberty. How is this not tyranny? You didn't harm anybody else. It's your life. You can do whatever you want with it, right? But no, you don't own your life. That's the reason why they can throw you in a cage. A peace officer who takes a person into custody under subsection A may immediately seize. That's the term under the Fourth Amendment. Unreasonable searches and seizures. They can't have a search or a seizure without probable cause, but they are seizing you without. The only probable cause that they have is that you're going to harm yourself, which is not a crime. So why are they arresting you and throwing you in a cage? A peace officer who takes a person in custody under subsection A may immediately seize any firearm found in possession of the person. After seizing a firearm under the subsection, the peace officer shall comply with the requirements of blah 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 an article of the Criminal Code of Procedure. So somebody told me that the government does not force us to exist, that the government doesn't prevent us or force us to live without our consent. Clearly, that is not the case. I just proved it to you. If you don't want to live, they're going to force you to live, but they're going to throw you in a cage. They're going to take away your firearm. They're going to restrict your liberty. They're probably going to put you on medication, right? Just because you talked about it. So you basically don't need to talk about it. You need to keep it to yourself. This is so oppressive. This is the worst form of tyranny ever.